Hi, everybody. This is Tracy Malone from NarcissistAbuseSupport.com. If you are watching on YouTube, I am going to be presenting a slideshow that I will be presenting to a law firm's webinar tonight live. And so this is my practice, and we are going to be talking about narcissistic post-separation abuse. And I'm going to start by sharing this screen so that you guys can follow along with me, because we need to understand what post narcissist abuse support is. And we're talking about this because some people believe that they're doomed to have this kind of abuse for the next 18 years in the control of a narcissist. If you have kids, it will feel like a life sentence. I work with people who experience these things during the divorce and post-divorce. The longest client I ever had that had to deal with this was 10 years later, and they're still coming after them. Post-separation abuse is real. If you are seeing it during the divorce process, then you can almost count on it if you do not learn to protect yourself. Now, I don't want to put the fear into you. I want to empower you to understand the bulk of post-divorce abuse can be lessened with strong decrees and parenting plans. The people I see that do experience this wish they knew the things that we're going to talk about today to prevent the fights and help resolve conflict versus live in the battle zone. The people with 3-page parenting plans do not have proper coverage to discourage a narcissist from their games. On the back of my book, Divorcing Your Narcissist, You Can't Make This Shit Up, I have a statement that says, if you are aware, then you can prepare. So let's talk about post-separation abuse. What is it? So while it occurs in divorces involving non-narcissistic individuals, it's more commonly observed in high conflict divorce situations, especially when one of the parties displays behaviors associated with NPD. So post-separation abuse is where a pattern of abusive behaviors occurs after a couple is separated or divorced. It involves one former partner using various tactics to exert control, intimidate, manipulate, or harm the other parent, even though they're no longer together. That's the technical term. I call it torture. It puts fear and panic and depression into your heart, lots of anxiety. You feel like nobody will ever help or make it stop. And you're spending money, you're hemorrhaging money on lawyers, and every single thing is a battle. And you wonder why. What could I have done, or what can I do now? Let's look at the different types of reasons that they do post-separation divorce, because it all ties into their personality traits and psychological makeup. Once you see how this part of the things that make a narcissist kind of use and bring into it, you'll see why they're doing this. It's clear when you kind of put the pieces together. So a sense of control. Narcissists have a strong need for control and dominance over others. After a divorce, they may feel a loss of control and power. And this leads them to resort to abusive tactics as a means of reestablishing that control over their ex-partner. Their need for attention and validation. They crave attention, admiration, and validation from others. We know that. Divorce can be a significant source of emotional turmoil. And some narcissists may resort to abusive tactics to garner attention and sympathy from others. By playing the victim or exaggerating their suffering, they may manipulate others into providing the attention and validation they desire. Now remember, that's supply. Now, the next one is threat to their self-image. Narcissists have an inflated self-importance and perceive themselves as superior to others. The end of a relationship, particularly through divorce, even if it's their idea, can be a blow to their ego and challenge their self-perception. To protect their fragile self-image, they may engage in these abusive behaviors to demean and belittle their ex-partner, bolstering their own sense of superiority. The next one is a lack of empathy. We know they have no empathy, but when we are in the post-divorce things, they may engage in this without considering the emotional impact on their partner or the consequence of their actions. Their primary focus is on satisfying their own needs and maintaining their own superiority. The next one is desire for revenge. They have a strong desire for revenge when they perceive themselves as being wronged or humiliated. Divorce can be seen as a personal attack on their ego, and they may seek to retaliate against their ex-partner through abusive tactics as a way to regain the sense of power and inflict emotional pain. It's not you, it's them. Sorry, it's not them, it's you. Sorry. Narcissists often support their victim story. This is an important one, to portray themselves as innocent and virtuous while casting the light on their other partner as evil and manipulative. They do this to maintain control over the perception of the situation, and that they reinforce their self-image as flawless and morally superior. Controlling the narrative with children, family, and friends helps them not feel shame, which we know is their core wound and a vulnerability that they don't want people to see. Most common types of post-separation divorce abuse. So if you're trying to figure out if your ex is going to do it, well, we'll look at the red flags in your divorce and see if they're pulling these kind of tactics. If they're pulling them during post-divorce, then they will probably continue to try to do it post-divorce because it worked. So some of the most common types of abuse are legal abuse, financial abuse, counter-parenting, alienation of the children, psychological and emotional abuse, coercive control, harassment, stalking, and online abuse. Since our time is limited today, I'm going to cover the top 3, and I will explain what each one looks like and what you can do to potentially put roadblocks to not having these things come true. Let's look at legal abuse first. I wish I had a prospective number of the cases in which legal abuse happens in post-divorce, but I only see the ones that are experiencing legal abuse. So from my perspective and based on my clientele, it's 100%. I know that number isn't right because the ones who aren't being abused don't need a narcissist abuse divorce coach. So that might be a little skewed, but it is quite common, especially in the arena of the narcissistic world. But not all narcissists continue to drag you back to court, especially if there's no children. When there are children is where you're more likely to experience this never-ending abuse cycle of legal abuse. And these are called legal retaliation cases. The abuser cunningly conceals their true intention behind a facade in the courtroom, deceiving even the most experienced family court professionals, including custody evaluators, therapists, GALs, judges. Masked with malicious intent, they exploit the court proceedings to manipulate, harass, intimidate, coerce, and exhaust the safe parent's financial and emotional resources. They show disregard for court orders, file false reports, and intentionally cause delays in legal proceedings and make legal threats to assert power and control over the safe parent. Co-parenting. Their sole objective is fueled by a desire for revenge, punishment, and ongoing dominance over the safe parent. Let's look at some of the tactics in legal abuse. So misusing court proceedings, right? They're going to manipulate the court process to their advantage, prolonging legal battles unnecessarily and draining the resources of the other party. They may file excessive motions, petitions, or requests, causing the safe parent to incur significant financial and emotional burdens. They disregard court orders. The abuser will intentionally ignore or violate court orders such as visitation schedules or child support payments with the aim of destabilizing the safe parent's life and provoking emotional distress. They make false allegations. They fabricate allegations of abuse, neglect, or parental alienation against the safe parent, using these false claims as a means to tarnish their reputation and gain leverage in custody or visitation disputes. The abusive parent resorts to contacting child protective services. They call the police, and they even call the children's school and make false claims against you as a mean of exerting control and intimidation. Causing delays and creating obstacles. The abusive person may intentionally create delays in court by filing frivolous motions, demanding excessive documentation, or repeatedly changing legal representation. These tactics will prolong the legal process and increase expenses and wear down the safe parent. Making legal threats. They may utilize threats of further litigations, financial ruin, or public exposure to intimidate or coerce the safe parent into complying with their demands. These threats serve to maintain control and instill fear. Seeking revenge or punishment. We know they like revenge. The primary motivation behind their legal actions may be seeking revenge against the safe parent for ending the relationship or punishing them for some perceived wrongdoing. They view the legal system as a tool for exerting power and control over the safe parent's life. Weaponizing the children. The toxic parent engages in a battle for equal parenting time, yet their genuine interest in the child's well-being is questionable. Once they believe they have achieved a victory in court, they often abandon and neglect the children. If you're wondering, how will I know if they will abuse me? Look at your current situation. If you're going through it, if they have a history of this, if they are continuing to be revengeful and controlling, they threaten you, they don't listen to your boundaries, or they have unpredictable behaviors, these are red flags that this could happen in the future, and to protect yourself. So what can you do? Well, if it isn't clearly mapped out with more details than needed, the narcissist will wheel out of the gray area and make your life horrific. They get something if you can get something into the degree, it becomes the law. It's enforceable by the court and the legal system if they don't comply. They aren't going to like this, but my observation is you either pay now to make these things correct and have everything outlined, or you're going to pay later. The other thing to do is shut down anything that binds you together. If you have children, obviously that's going to bind you together. You can't shut that down. But if you have a business that's joined together, do you have to be in the business? Can you have them buy you out? If you have a rental property, is it better off sold than holding on to it and continuing having access to you? Consider having them buy you out to release that connection. And getting a well-crafted decree is absolutely essential to protect yourself. Documenting everything, right? If you don't document everything, you're going to be accused of something, but having evidence to prove them a liar makes a difference. Financial abuse is our next one, and this is within a court setting. The abusive partner engages in widespread financial manipulation and deceit aimed at causing harm at the healthy partner. They employ various tactics, such as playing financial games with the intention of creating discord and strife. They may resolve in restricting bank access to the bank accounts or other financial resources, effectively blocking the healthy parent's ability to meet their financial needs. What are some of the things that they do? Here's some examples. They withhold money. The abusive partner intentionally withholds the money from the victim, denying them access to the funds for basic needs such as food and clothing and healthcare, or they won't pay their share of the children's activity or a portion of the medical bills. This is common stuff. Abusing your financial literacy. If you have been a stay-at-home parent and you didn't know what you even had in the bank, or you knew nothing about your finances, that's a vulnerability that they will be used against you. They will take advantage of your lack of knowledge to abuse you further. They will gaslight you that there's nothing there. They will gaslight you and lie that you have no rights to certain things. Learn your rights. The next one is non-compliance with financial orders. Basically, they don't pay court-ordered support. That's a big one. We're going to talk about how to prevent that in a minute. And then they have financial control, fighting over everything that the child needs. If you say the child needs a new backpack, they'll say, it doesn't say I have to pay for that. And if you fight for something, and that was a silly example, but let's say it's a bigger thing like education and nursery school. Now you have to take them back to court to make them pay. And so we want you to stop having to go back to court. So what do we do about financial abuse? We'll take each one of those things we talked about, meaning withholding money. So not paying you the child support or alimony or support of spousal support, that affects how you can raise your children. So here in Colorado, and it's not in every state, but here in Colorado, we have something called the Family Court Payment System. Not every state has one. Ask your lawyer if they do. We have one, and I'll explain what it is so that you can ask your lawyer if you can get it. This is a system that I believe you think has to be requested, but payments go directly from your ex to them, and they then turn around and pay you. If your ex is late paying the court system, they go after them directly. And if you end up without something like this, then you are calling your lawyer to send an email to their lawyer to say they haven't paid, and you are chasing the money. We don't want to be chasing the money for the next 18 years. If the money goes through the financial payment system like this, they go after them. So there's no deadbeat dad, deadbeat mom that's not paying their bills. They go after them. They can garnish, they have the power to garnish their wages. They can take their tax returns. They can even jail them. Now, that's one thing off your plate that would save your life forever. So make sure you get that in place. Financial literacy fears. Okay, so the power is knowledge. They know that you were not financially savvy, so they will take advantage of that. And educating yourself about your financial situation during the divorce process and knowing your financial rights is absolutely mandatory. If needed, consult with a financial advisor. Understand your rights. Education is key. I took a financial literacy course that helped me be more confident and help let go of some of my financial fears, because that's part of the abuse. To battle a fear, we must learn to face the fear. And then they can't use the fear against you because you know the truth. They can't say you're not entitled to have the house because your name's not on it, because you know the right is, you know what? My name might not be on the mortgage, but we use marital money and I do have a right. That takes your power back. You need to be educated so that you are not vulnerable to this kind of thing. I have a quote going into a 2024 calendar by Tiny Buddha that it says, sometimes fear won't always go away, so you'll have to do it afraid. And so for us, that's what we need to know. We need to know that we have to battle this, and taking them back is what you're going to need to protect yourself. Let's move on. Counterparenting. Counterparenting refers to a harmful parenting behavior in which one parent actively works against the other parent's authority, their decisions, and their roles. And I'm going to explain a little about that on the next slide. This creates confusion and conflict for the child. Instead of cooperating with the other co-parent, the counterparent undermines and opposes their efforts, potentially leading to an emotional and psychological distress for the child. This behavior can negatively impact the child's well-being and their relationship with both parents because it disrupts the stability and consistency needed for healthy development in a child. Basically, they undo everything that you're trying to do in the developmental needs of the child. So let's talk about how they do that. I've got a few examples, and undermining parents' abilities and decisions is one of them. Here's an example. You text, email, call, follow up, document, school things, medical things, anything, but they're not answering your requests. No matter how many times you email and reach out to them that you have to register for Boy Scouts, they simply don't answer you. So you finally decide, and then you sign up for Boy Scouts, and then they beat you up for making a unilateral decision without them. And there's no winning, right? You're in trouble, and they're just not going to take them to Boy Scouts because you made this unilateral, despite the fact that you tried 80 times to get an answer out of them and the deadline was coming up. So that's one example. Fighting over things just to be a pain. They complicate your relationships with teachers, doctors, scout leaders, and coaches. Recently, I had a client whose preschool sent pictures out every day of the child playing. They sent a picture to both parents of the kids sleeping. and the father lost it because there was no pillow, and then reported to the school and social services, and decided that their child cannot go to the school. This complicated the relationship with the parent and the school. And ultimately, the kid had to be pulled out of school because the father got upset because the kid didn't have a pillow. So that's how they're counter parenting with you. They have no rules in their house, no homework, no bedtime, and no electronic rules. So when they come back to your house, besides you having to help them make up all their schoolwork, you become the bad guy and not the fun house. And they're doing it to just sit there and turn the child against you. So we have to understand that undoing this mess when the kids come up, they have no empathy for the children and how this inconsistency is setting them backwards. Another area that they do it is in medical and developmental counter parenting. So how can diapers and pacifiers become a weapon? Easy with counter parenting, right? You've been potty training the kid and the kid's doing great, and counter parenting is deciding that accidents are just too much work to clean up. So they put the child back in the diaper to make their lives easier, not the child's, but their life. While they've got those 3 days, I don't have to do that. This is going to set the kid back, and it's going to take time to undo every single week that you go back there. It's Groundhog Day developmentally, and it's really bad for young children. Pacifiers are also used in this too. The next example is in the medical and developmental way is that they just won't agree. They won't agree to take the child to the dentist, to the doctor, to get glasses, to get braces, or to go to therapy. The documentation didn't explicitly say it was written for them, so they refuse to let you take them or even pay. Now you're forced to pay to take them back to court so your kid can actually go to the dentist. Another way that they use the medical counter parenting is in medical reporting. They don't give them medicine or call the doctor or tell you that the baby is covered in a body rash. But if, you're busy one night and you don't answer the phone so that they can say goodbye to them, they're freaking out, but they won't tell you that your child has 104 fever and had it the whole time, or even tell you that they gave them Tylenol and this is how I'm treating them. They just don't do it. So you're going to have to make sure that this gets taken care of. Double standards. They consistently have the children bring toys to their house, sports equipment, favorite toys from your house, and they're never returned. Yet, if something is left at your house, they document it and they scream and they demand that you bring it back immediately. Double standards. Last one is they don't give the child medicine. We kind of talked about that. All right. Neglectful and abusive parenting. Indifference to the children's feelings, right? Dismissing a child's emotional expressions, needs, or concerns and making them feel unimportant, invalidating, or ignoring the child when they're at their home. These are huge. These cause the I'm not good enough recordings in our children's heads. So we need to learn that this is going to be dangerous, but we can undo it. Example, another one is exposing them to harmful situation. Exposing a child to harmful environments, substance abuse, or dangerous individuals without regard for their safety or well-being. Let's just say they have a brother who had sexually assaulted little children. That is not someone that you want near them. And so, again, we'll talk about how do we prevent this, but if they have the brother that is a sexual predator, you can get it put into your decree that the limitations on the children being around said uncle. So if you know that these things exist, we need to fight for them. The last thing is Disneyland parenting. And this is where they buy the children's love to the level that other parent can't afford. This is obvious, but in my book, I have a father who bought a 12-year-old $100,000 car. Keep loyal to me and you'll get it when you're 16. How do you compete with that? The other way they Disneyland parent is at their home. There's no rules, no bedtime. They don't eat right. They have inconsistent routines. They don't do their homework. The my ex-narc would do a marathon weekend with his kids playing video games. They were proud that they didn't sleep all weekend and they survived on Coke and pizza. And then he sent them back to the mother to get them back on track. This also means it's not their responsibility to take the children to the dentist, doctors. This is their time in their mind. They don't have to take the kid to the dentist. That's your responsibility. Counter-parenting is this. So what do we do? Well, first of all, don't panic. Not every narcissistic divorce is a 10 on the chart. I'm explaining the situations, again, not to put fear in your heart, but so that you're aware and you can prepare. If your soon ex is displaying these crazy, behaviors, it's your flag. And the good news is it's a flag that we now have good news to get in front of because we're expecting it. It's when they don't show these behaviors, we don't plan for them. We just go, oh, they'll be nice. And then they're not. So the fact that they are showing them, poop, it's all good, right? So the most important thing, not panicking. We'll take care of that. Select a solid conflict resolution policy. This is what I see missing in most decrees, and I don't know why, but it is so important. It's how will we manage things when we don't get along, when we have conflicts, what will we do and how will we resort it? I see 3/4 of the decrees and parenting plans from my clients from all over the world without a clause, and therefore every conflict becomes a court battle. But if we have a situation that doesn't cost us money to take them back, and we have a way to set up a reconciliation, a resolution policy, right? I love the step-up method, but there's many different ways. So ask your lawyer. I like the first one is being a parent coordinator. If we don't agree on something like school activities, then we will go to the parent coordinator. We will agree to split the cost. Don't forget that part. And we will, take care of this as soon as possible. Having a clause in there that doesn't make this, hostage situation of deciding to go to scouts last for a year where scouts has already ended. Get them in. You have the thing that says we will have this parent coordinator. We will do it within 2 weeks and we will split the cost. Boom, first stop. Right? If you were talking about medical decisions, often the first stop is not the parent coordinator. The first stop is we will defer to the dentist if the kid needs braces. We will refer to the doctor if the kid needs this test or vaccine. It's the other situations that the parent coordinator is usually the first stop. Make sure your lawyer outlines both the medical things that we will resort to the experts, and then taking into the consideration the next step for a parent coordinator. A lot of times, if you name the parent coordinator, imagine, okay, we're having a fight and we can't agree on something. Now we're going to not agree on which parent coordinator we're going to use. And that can take you another 3 months to, prospectively not find a person. They don't agree. So if you find one and you can both agree on it, put that person's name into the decree. Tracy Malone, I'm not a parent coordinator. I'm making that up. Tracy Malone will be our parent coordinator. That will be our first stop, right? You name it so that you don't have to mess with that later. Because again, if we're talking about not agreeing, we will not agree on parent coordinator. We will not agree on realtors. We will not agree on anything. So name it while you can. Second, if the parent coordinator isn't coming up with something, what do we do now? We go to the mediation. We agree to split the costs and we get into as soon as possible so that we are putting all of that in there. And we can even have something in there that says the person with the conflict is the one who schedules it. We can add all these bonus things in there to make sure. The third thing is we go to court. So now we've had all of these opportunities to avoid that expensive lawyer and expensive court date waiting and the time. The conflict resolution will stop a lot of the legal costs, but my what if they don't clause from my book, which outlines if they don't do something in the decree, then they will be responsible for the legal fees. Get that in there into the conflict resolution as well. Create the most comprehensive parenting plan that you possibly can so that you are getting all the details in, like as I was explaining in those little examples of, hey, we can also say, we're going to split the cost and we're going to name the parent coordinator. The more details, I know it's hard and it's a fight, but do it now or do it later. That's really the bottom line. Creating that parenting plan. How much did you spend on your wedding dress? People like equate it and go, I don't have the money. I've been, sucked dry. Yes, you have, but you're going to be back in court. Do you want that $20,000 hearing? No, I just want to make sure that I get everything in here. Equate it to how much you spent on your wedding, and your wedding dress alone was probably a couple thousand. It's worth putting that money in to make sure that the rest of your 18 years with your children and having to deal with them is protected. The last thing is document everything, right? They're going to make these false allegations. And if you have ninja documentation that proves their integrity, this helps you win the cases. Prove them a liar, they will cast doubt on all of the false allegations they're making against you. Documentation is king. And I know people are complaining, nobody ever cares. I get it, but they will care when you need it for a court hearing or for a GAL or parent coordinator might need those things to show the true picture, because the narcissist is going to lie to them as well. We already learned that in the legal abuse section. All right, guys, we're almost done. There is more that can happen, and we're not going to talk about these, but the alienation allegations, despite their lack of parenting skills and able to be emotionally connected with a child, the children sometimes like the healthy parent's home more. And this makes the narcissist angry. Since it can't be them, it has to be you. So they throw out these false allegations. The truth in most cases is that they are actually alienating the children and telling them all kinds of things to become the favorite parent. Remember, they have to be the best at everything. So this is what they're going to do. Make false allegations. We know they're going to seek revenge and punishment. We know they're going to harass and stalk you. I have had clients who have had to change their phones and move monthly. The other one is that they will impersonate or identity theft you. I've had a client with her ex opening 10 credit cards in her name and ringing up $100,000. They can just sign you up for things. And again, this is actually against the law, so it's pretty important if they're doing it. We are documenting it, and they could go away for a long time if they do something like that, but they do it. Other things are manipulation, gaslighting, guilt tripping, interference with the parent-child contact, which we know, and public shaming. So if we have interference with the parent contact, but we have a law and a clause in our decree that says that this is what will happen for communication. If they interfere with it, we're back in court. And we are now fighting for that. But if we have the fact that they are now in disagreement with something that's in the decree, you can have the what if they don't clause, and you could bring them in, they pay your legal fees, and that's how they will do that. They will use public shaming as expect to lose friends, expect to lose people that you called friends, let's call it that way. Expect them to try. They always try to convince your family of the lies that they are pushing. It's just one of their common tactics. So most of this can be avoided if you get a proper protection in your decree and parenting plan. So thank you so much for coming today. I hope this helped you. I am not doing questions and answer, which is what this slide says. That's for my webinar tonight. But for all of you who have been here, I hope that you have gained a little bit of knowledge, understanding post-separation abuse and the things that you can do. Get on your lawyer's case. They know how to protect you, but you also have to be the advocate. And that's why I'm building this parenting plan course that's coming soon, that's going to show you what you're entitled to. Just as I see those parenting plans and decrees all over my desk, I go, why is this one 3 pages and this one 30 pages? Why don't everyone have that dispute resolution policy? Why? Get all the whys, get all the protection you can, and you will be able to stop post-separation abuse. This is Tracy Malone. If you found this helpful, please like and share, and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video when I'm actually on camera versus doing a slideshow, my unusual thing of the day. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.